Well, I say it's about time. We can go ahead and switch over here, change gears. So, really valuable part of the deal that we do with this group call, really the bulk of the deal, is that we want to provide an opportunity for you guys to benefit from the other coaches, but also other clients. There's sometimes questions that are better to ask to your peers and kind of get their feedback. And so that's what this group calls are for: is one, sharing wins, two, building that community, but three, getting those questions answered of what's going on in your world, what things are you guys seeing, kind of get that perspective across the board. So what questions do we have this morning? Things that have been scratching your head, or roadblocks or issues you're running into? Go ahead and raise a hand, put it in the chat. Let's get after it. What brought you here this morning?
No right or wrong here, guys. No bad questions. If you would ask it to your coach, you can ask it to the group, get feedback.
I guess what brought me here mostly was hitting a lull, not necessarily in work, but as in s- knowing what to do next and realizing that I'm great at my trade. I've been decent at the business thus far, but you hit a rut as a tradesman where we weren't taught this stuff. We were taught how to plumb, we were taught how to do our craft, whatever it may be. But when it comes to the business, that was something that was kind of there. Our employer gatekeep that and don't want to teach you so much because they don't want you to leave. I was blessed with my last employer that did share with me, but not the whole script. Um, so I used what he gave me this far, but as far as scaling and growth, he never did that. He inherited the business from his father, um, and was able to go from there. The systems and processes were already in place. Um, he grew it from there, but it was a different scenario to do it from ground zero up to a 10 truck outfit is beyond. And I personally believe beyond what you can read. You have to have physical, you have to have communication with somebody that knows the script. And that's what led me here. And also just a year of research, talking to all the guys, all the business coaches, all the Zoom meetings, and landed on Redmond Growth. The values were a little different that y'all have to offer compared to the majority in the industry.
Yeah. Well, we so appreciate you saying that, and we're so excited to be working with you. And I think you could probably have a lot of people here who would say the exact same things as you of like, I'm really good at my trade. I wanted to do my own thing, but that does not mean that I know business stuff, like it doesn't mean I have those systems and I have those things. So you're definitely not alone. Uh, do you have any like specific questions that you maybe want to ask the group? It's okay if you don't. I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
I guess really the next step for us is the delegating tasks, because I'm sure the majority of people on this call were in the position where they wore all the hats. And I'm wearing all of them at this point, and it's became overwhelming because I'm still in the field as well. I do more technical, commercial, industrial calls than the guys do the day to day. But doing all that becomes overwhelming and drives a wedge in between that work-life balance. And I know as a business owner and entrepreneur, that's always an interesting pendulum. But to figure out how to level that out and hire the right people, because next, as me and you spoke, the next big step is going to be hiring somebody for the office, hiring a dispatcher scheduler.
Right.
And that's been kind of heavy on my mind as far as how do you get that person that cares, that's not going to sit there on Facebook all day. How do you,
Totally.
like, that's the next move we're working
Yeah.
towards.
And it's hard to let go of that phone. It is the lifeblood of the business. And you also don't want to make a hire and feel like you're not making the most of it either. Somebody who's just waiting for the phone to ring. Any clients here that have hired an office person or have gone through that or are currently in that and you're kind of navigating that too or have navigated it, I would love to get Dallin here some advice.
I don't know about a lot of advice, Nicole, but I'm going through that right now. We're trying to figure this out, and I've been back and forth on a VA and family members that may or may not want to go to work, and so it's not easy. I started writing down all the tasks that I do so I could figure out what I can give off to a VA.
It's a great way to start.
Yeah, the only problem is I think I need to hire like 3 people. Yeah, but that's me. I don't have any kids at home anymore, so I was at the dump dropping off, emptying the trailer this morning, so that at 8 o'clock I can go to another job site without the guy having to go to the dump, and I'll probably wrap up about 10 or 10:30 tonight. So
yeah,
I'm in the process of doing the same thing of trying to figure out who I need to have in place to take some of these off so I can do higher value things, because it's not a real high value task to drive a dump trailer to the dump and empty it,
right.
So trying to work all that out. So you're not alone. It's and I just looked at our board. I mean, I'm real excited because since we come to Redmond Growth, our business has exploded. But I looked at our board. We've got close to $300,000 in jobs on the board right now that we're in the process of some point working on them. So it's coming together, getting us close. Our target is 1.5 million, and we can keep cruising like we are now. We may hit that this year. So,
well, that's a win, Scott. That's a win. And what you're doing with the office manager is a great place to start. I know we talked about that, where it's like, hey, if you don't know where to go, one, we've got a daily office manager checklist, which is a really good template to give you a solid outline of what we typically see that person do that role. Now, that's not set in stone. You can change things on that. You can add things, you can take away. I always suggest when you first hire somebody, you start them off with 3 or 4 duties. They get good at those, and then we add from there, so it's not like a one and done thing. It'll absolutely be revisited. But the best place to start is to say, what duties are currently on my plate that I could delegate to somebody else? Start creating that list, and then we'll build the systems, we'll build the checklist, the videos, the how-to around those, so that when you go to hire somebody, they are really equipped to kind of take it and run with it. I don't know if Stacy or Jordan are here with JS Russell, but I know that you guys have an office manager, and I know that you guys have experienced a lot of help in that department, getting Stacy more in the office and hiring office manager. I don't know if either of you are in a position to talk about it.
Yeah, I am here.
Awesome.
Well, we have 2 people in the office now besides me. And so I would say the last month it's been really helpful. I'm learning to not only delegate, but what's the best way to say it? Not feel like I have to hover over everything because I'm anal. And so that's been really helpful. I had a meeting with Caden yesterday, and he was like, wow, CMM's looking so good. And I was like, yeah, that's not me. I was like, but I'm really getting them to work on that because that's awesome. I really lack in. So it is really helpful just learning what they can each do best. And I think it's been very helpful. And I created the sheets and lists that Nicole said and how to delegate.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's okay. I know sometimes people feel guilty when it's like, well, yeah, it's getting done, but like, I'm not the one doing it, or I don't know how to do that. That's okay. It's the same thing where it's like, I don't need the owner of the company to know how to do bookkeeping. Let's hire a bookkeeper that already knows how to do that. Like, it's okay to have somebody else calling through your leads on CMM, updating CMM. That's great. The only thing you need to do is to be able to hold people accountable. You know, like it's okay that it's okay if you don't even know how. That's fine. You know, somebody's just got to be doing it.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay. I see we have, or Bryce, thank you for putting that function of an office manager document in the chat here. If anybody doesn't have that, you can make a copy of that, make that your own. But that's kind of our template there. Jacob, I see you put something in the chat here where you're saying you're still needing to increase new leads outside of current customers. I don't know if you're in a position to unmute, but I would love to know, how are you currently getting leads? Is it all just repeat customers and referrals? Have you tried anything else? Would love to just kind of hear more about that from you.
Hello, yeah. So I mean, we're trying probably what everybody else has, is the LSA, Google Ads. Really haven't ventured out into Facebook, because every time we create a Facebook and try to boost it, nothing comes of it. So I'm sure there's a playbook that we need to use to make that work better. And just pounding the concrete, trying to find new customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you, so
Sorry, I was interrupting you there. With pounding the concrete, trying to find new customers, what does that look like? Are you doing business to business relationships, or door knocking, or pamphleting, canvassing, stuff like that? What does that look like?
cold calls, sending out some letters. We need to do a better job of it, but like when we're on another call, you know, putting our signs out, things like that.
Do you guys have branded vehicles at the moment?
Yep.
Okay. That's always a part of it for sure, is having your branding out there when you're on job sites, having it, being able to put yard signs up whenever you're there. Depending on the town you're in, sometimes, I know you guys are in Oklahoma City, Tulsa is one of those towns that's a pretty big billboard town. It's hard to measure ROI, but that's one of those things that you can measure on a case by case. However, Google Local Services, Google Organic, those are going to be your best lead sources. And the main way that we know, and everyone knows from Google in ranking, is the reviews that you have. I know we just started with you guys, but we're looking at running that email campaign to boost those reviews as well, and start getting you better leads from Google Local Services and Google. And we'll start pretty soon for you too on the Facebook side of things with meta ads as well. So you guys are on the Craftsman package. So once we get set on the initial foundation, those will be our main things. But I am curious, since you brought the question, kind of, Jacob, something I've been kind of picking up on, what the heck, picking up on across the board was like generally a slower March. I just want to take the opportunity and ask if that's been the case across the board for most of the folks here. Like if March normally is when things pick up, if that's been particularly slow this year or same as normal. What's kind of been the general experience here?
So I've tracked since we've been in business, no software, but on paper. So I've got a log of what we did weekly, daily, and so forth since March, early March to 2024. So even as an employee, I noticed around that time of year, you've got spring break and you've got tax season coming up. People kind of hit the brakes in the home service industry. I don't necessarily know, I can't speak on other industries, but I know in the home service industry, historically, people kind of slow down around spring break. They slow down coming up on tax season, but we hit the lull into February, beginning of March, or February, beginning of March. And then the dam broke mid last week and it's back to normal. We're struggling to keep up, but talking to other friends in the industry in HVAC and electrical, same with them. And it's been historical in our area every year about the same time. And it's the same times of year around Christmas, slows down right after New
Holidays.
Year.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Holidays, spring break, definitely. I had a lot of clients that didn't realize that it was spring break. So they were like, why is nobody calling? And I'm like, I don't think you need to worry. It's just spring break. You're fine. It will pick back up. And for a lot of them, it has. You know, these first couple weeks of April, even the last week of March has started to see an uptick there. It also, you know, I'm not going to pretend that we are in a normal state of the world right now. You know, there's a lot going on, and that is something to consider when it comes to lead flow. However, people still need your services. We saw this during COVID, you know, when the world basically shut down and encountered something it's never encountered, you know. And so, like, there are still absolutely leads to be had out there. You still want to get Google reviews. That's like having a billboard on the busiest highway, you know, in the world, getting your business listing to rank #1 on Google. Running those Google local services ads is the first thing that pops up on Google when people are searching. And so that's so key too. And that ranks through reviews well. So if you're getting reviews, you're killing two birds with one stone there. And then meta ads are great too, especially for our industries that are more in the I want this compared to I need this. Meta ads can work super well. But all of those advertising platforms are search volume dependent. What that means is that whether you're ranking #1 or not, when search volume's a little bit lower because of spring break, because of New Year's, because of whatever, you know, there's just not that as many people searching. You're going to see less leads, even if you have a wonderful meta campaign, even if you're ranking really well. And so what we want to lean into there is if you really want a bulletproof marketing system, you know, where you're like, no matter what happens, I'm going to have leads coming in. You want to have 3 or 4 ways you can consistently get leads. Google being one, meta ads being another, and then repeat customers and referrals. And then we love to have something that's more like relational. So Dream 100 work, where you're building relationships with people who could either refer you or hire you directly. You know, that's something that is not search volume dependent. If you have relationships with property management groups, with HOAs, with new home builders, with general contractors, whoever, you know, could either hire you, refer you, whatever. You know, BNI is great. I think sometimes BNI is a little bit more of a schmooze fest than any like tangible results, but it's definitely not a negative thing to have. But I find things more effective when you are going to somebody's office, dropping off some donuts and one sheets, and you're not pressuring anybody. You're just saying, hey, just wanted to shake hands, introduce ourselves, drop this off with you guys. What Bryce was saying, where it's like, hey, if you're already in that neighborhood, do a little bit of door knocking, have some gift cards in your one sheets to say, hey, we're doing work for blank up the street. We're offering free estimates. If we're loud, please let us know. Coffee's on me this morning. Give them a gift card or a goodie bag or something, like those types of things, making sure that you have a yard sign out front, making sure you're calling through your past leads or past estimates. My goodness, if somebody's telling me they are slow and they are not doing that, as the first thing that I'd be doing. That's your lowest hanging fruit. Sending marketing emails to your customer list. You know, like there's so many things that you can be doing whenever the phone is slow to drive work. But it sounds like, Jacob, that really you've been so dependent on just repeat customers and referrals, you haven't tapped into, you know, Google local services or Meta. So I think you're just at kind of the cuff here of getting a lot more leads coming in by getting those things going. Michael, I see your hand up.
Yeah, what's a one sheet?
Bryce, if you want to pull one up for me.
Oh,
Sorry.
hang on.
I'm messing with Bryce. I know what a one sheet is.
I saw
I was about to
Bryce's
say.
face. And I'm like, Michael's been around for so long. Bryce, you haven't done a one sheet? I was about to
I was
get
going
on.
to pull up Mike's one sheet and put that in the chat.
That's funny.
This
Thanks
guy.
that you guys asked. A lot of people didn't know, so that's why I threw that out there.
Yeah. Well,
Great,
Bryce, if
yeah.
you still want to like just even put one in the chat for those who are new, like Alan, who's not seen one yet. So a one sheet is a front and back document. We like to use this instead of business cards just because it's got all of your contact information. It's got a QR code to your reviews. It's got your services. It's usually got your top benefits on there. So it's less likely to get thrown away. And it's more of a sales tool along with being that marketing tool that business card is. Yep. Michael's
I have
got
a
one in his
5x8.
hand.
I use it as my business card.
Love
Yeah, he
it.
does. That a guy. Whew.
Love it.
Oh, my reputation was on the line publicly for a moment there.
Hey, Bryce, send
Yeah.
me that file. I need to order more.
Love it.
Okay, can do.
Love
You got it.
Angel, I see your question here in the chat. You said, I have a big profit coming in. I'm hesitant to hire a business developer / salesperson. I'm a GC in Florida. It's just a matter of fear on committing to having someone full time and not making back the money and eating the profit. Totally legitimate fear. Yeah, I think we've even already kind of heard that fear in the call here today about hiring an office manager, making that jump. I know I talked with a client yesterday who's in the position to hire a project manager, and they're feeling that too, where it's like, how do I make sure this works? How do I make sure this is the right move? How do I make sure that I get a return on my investment? And so, Angel, if you are in a position to unmute, I would love to kind of hear from you directly, and then we can kind of dive into that.
Yeah, so far I've been doing everything myself, building the relationships, going to networking events. I joined the VNA and didn't work. So, I've done a lot of things and then I have to go to the job sites, I have to take care of those things as well. So, I have a few people that are interested in the position. They're good candidates. It's just a matter of pulling the trigger. That's what I mean. It's the fear, like I have to pay this person. They have to, be on payroll. It's going to be expense for the company. I have read somewhere in the internet that it takes around 6 to 12 months to get the money back from hiring the BD or a salesperson. I have a lot of leads coming in, and it's hard for me to keep up with them. So if I had somebody that's next to me going to events and following up and stuff, I know it's gonna be easier for me to focus on other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one way, well, sorry, do other clients have stuff they want to feedback or interject here before I jump in there? Okay. I'll say one or two things, and I'm sure other people will have some encouragement for you too, or also insights. But as far as, yes, you're right, it will help to have somebody doing that role. Eventually, that is something you're going to have to systemize and delegate. The way that happens at call centers is whoever's performing the best, right? You script out what they're saying on the phone, and then you replicate that. So things like the one sheet, like a tool like that, or like a sales presentation folder, those are really key attributes, and we can definitely make those for you and help equip you to use them. But to your specific question about like the fear, I think you're right. It is a fear. It's a mindset going on of, I don't know what's coming tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll have enough work for this person when the season, when the next month starts or the next week starts. Tracking is going to be huge for that, Angel. I know that Dalen earlier, when he said that, I was stoked to hear it because a lot of business owners don't track. But that's your main way to break yourself out of those fear-based kind of irrational thoughts, to say, okay, I'm tracking every week so that I know what's consistent and I know what's reliable and predictable. The only reason that should change is if something is broken, like a lead source that should be live had a card decline, and so it's no longer, running anymore. Or my insurance is out of date on Google Local Services, so it's no longer running anymore. Or something, dramatic, like our phone number changed and we didn't change it over here, so we need to fix that. That's the only reason it should drop off a cliff. And if you're tracking, you'll know and see those drop offs. But what's really common is we feel this issue of whatever happened last week is how I feel about the business, for the last month. But it's really a week at a time. So tracking is one point of feedback that I want to give you. I'm sure you guys have started talking about that in your one-on-ones. But I just want to further emphasize that point as a way to help you kind of keep that peace of mind. But secondly, when you hire somebody into a role, we're big proponents of merit-based pay, especially in a sales role. It is very normal to do a commission only on a sales role. That way someone earns their keep. So yeah, you have some profit to kind of float it for a little bit as they're starting up and getting ramped up, but you got to have a system to kind of train them in so that they're doing it I don't know the name of your business, but the Angel Martinez way in your business, you got to train them up into that. But then also with that incentive structure or a merit-based pay commission structure for a sales role, they will earn what they bring as well. And if it's not working, that person's not going to be having enough income to stay, and they will
Okay.
leave themselves. So you're not having to like fire them or something like that, but it would be a natural byproduct of, all right, I'm not getting enough either. It'd be
Okay.
part of my feedback to you there. Does that help at all?
Yeah, it's very helpful. I mean, we have done good this year, like very good. We have the goal of 1 million in sales this year, and we have sold 780 right now.
All
And
right.
it's all by myself, and I know if I
Yeah.
hire somebody, it's gonna help me reach that goal.
Yeah.
Very quickly, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to echo what Bryce said. Tracking. You want to track his KPIs, you want to track the company's KPIs. That's how you're really going to be able to see the return of your investment. It's also where you're going to be able to see, where is he doing well? Where is he struggling? What do I need to do better to equip this guy to hit those goals? So those KPIs are so key. And then also kind of same thing that we talked about with the office manager. When you go to hire that person, you want to be prepared. You want to have a checklist of what are their daily duties, what are their weekly duties, how do they perform those duties? You don't want it to be an independent role. I feel like a lot of times that's where the concern or insecurity comes from making that hire, is just like, I've never done this before, so I genuinely, like, I know what I do, but I don't know how to communicate that to them, or I don't have it written down somewhere. This is what your job is. And so having that checklist, having those steps builds a lot of confidence. It's what you could always relay back to if you feel like they aren't performing or don't know what to do. So having those KPIs, tracking, it sounds like, Angel, from everything you've communicated, you have a great opportunity to bring somebody on. You got more work that you know what to do with, more leads that you know what to do with. So I really feel confident there. That's the best time to hire. Because the alternative is you're probably not going to be able to grow past where you are right now, without making that hire. So
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
we're
Yeah.
excited for you. And I'm excited to hear you have some good applicants for it, because I know sometimes that's the hardest battle, is finding that right
Yeah.
person.
I mean, the one thing I'm concerned is they speak very English that I do, because that's very important. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing.
Yes. Yeah. That'll be nice for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great question.
One other tidbit before we move on from it that I did want to say to Angel is, escaping my mind suddenly now that I've taken the floor. Crap.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, if it comes back, I'll bring it back around. Next question. What else do we have going on?
Questions, thoughts, concerns, things you're running into, or things you're trying to implement or scared to implement?
Oh, I remembered it. Sorry. It goes back to something that we were saying earlier, like part of your fear, which is a good fear to have. Many people will get in a situation where sales come in and they overhire a production team or like a labor team. They hire a bunch of laborers that are quantity of help, but not really quality of help. And then they become outsized and top heavy in terms of the labor force. With a sales role, it doesn't have that same sort of, top heavy situation, because the more sales you have, as long as you're scheduling them out, that keeps your pipeline full, and again, the commission stuff. So that was the other little tidbit there is you're in the right, you're okay. Because if you were on the other side where you were trying to hire a bunch of people to fulfill work that you didn't know you had later on, that's where people get themselves into some trouble. So anyway, what other questions now that we've done this twice? What other questions do we have this morning? Any other points of feedback, or yes sir, or miss? High Place Construction. Oh, you are muted. Sorry, what's your name?
Okay, there we go. Richard Lineweaver.
Mr. Richard. Sorry about that. Go ahead, sir.
I had a question, and may or may not have some good feedback from the group here, but so long story short, years ago I used to be a GC in all over Northeast Oklahoma. We're mostly remodeling, home improvement, specialized in siding, although we did just about everything. So generally, our business model was pretty much wrapped around short-term installs, like, for example, a siding replacement, kind of like a roofing kind of a thing. You're in and out in a couple of weeks, not a long project, I mean, it's a big ticket item, but I mean, it's not something where we're generally on site unless we're doing a commercial job, like an apartment complex for, weeks and weeks or months and months. However, started here in Colorado Springs, just launched everything the first of the year, and licensing, all that kind of stuff. We just started as of this last week with our Google listing stuff and our meta ads and our website live and all our one sheets. So we basically got, I think, most of our marketing and sales tools in place. Haven't got any leads or calls yet directly from any of that yet. But my question actually is this. So as we're moving from short-term install, a short-term product install market to longer-term installs, being kitchens, bathrooms, basement finishes, things where we're going to be on site for weeks and weeks and months and potentially even months. Is there anything the guys that have been around for a while that done anything like this, anything that if they were starting up they wish they had done differently or they would recommend doing? I, as a contractor, been around this business for a long time, off and on for many years, but it doesn't mean I know everything. And certainly, in sales and marketing and things, that whole world has changed so much the last years. So making new contracts, making new contacts here as a new company. But anyway, any recommendations for things that somebody wished they knew when they started that they had to learn later, and any feedback there that would be noteworthy or helpful would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a great
Awesome.
question, kind of open question. I would just love to know, anybody here, unmute, put it in the chat, raise a hand, however you want to do it. What's one thing that if you would have known 10 years ago that you're doing now, or when you first started, what would it be? Anybody? No right or wrong answers.
Probably would have hired a coach sooner.
It's a good one. It's a good one. What other? If somebody doesn't say Google reviews, I feel like I'm not doing my job. I feel like I've failed you guys as a coach here at Redmond Growth.
That's
Well, one trick as a startup is we're a little limited in Google reviews, because when we wrapped up our business in Oklahoma, that was like 8 or 9 years ago. We flipped houses, did different things here. So I don't have a big,
That's okay. Let me debunk that.
recent contacts that I can do the Google reviews, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Let me kind of debunk that. Just because it was 8 or 9 years ago, it does not mean that they don't remember you. It does not mean that it's not worth asking. I would still absolutely run an email campaign to that list asking for reviews, explaining that you're starting back up in Colorado and you're asking for a review to testify to the quality of work that you did for them way back in the day. That's totally fine. Even if you got a handful of reviews from that, worth doing. Also, friends, family members, vendors, subs, people you used to work for, people who you currently work with. Don't limit yourself to just customers. Anybody who can testify to the quality of work that they've seen you do is fair game. I have a client, Bird's Eye View Construction. They primarily do roofs, so it's not like they're a service guy who's doing multiple jobs per day. And they went from 80 reviews to, I think they're close to 110 now in the matter of a week. Why? Robert put a fire under their butt to start getting more reviews. They had not scraped the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the bucket. They thought they had, and they hadn't. Friends, family members, vendors, subs. And so just don't limit yourself to just thinking, oh, well, I'm brand new. Oh, well, I do a lot of big jobs, so I don't have a ton of customers. I promise you, you can still get a good amount of reviews. So just keep that mindset, stay tenacious with it. There's nothing more valuable when it comes to your marketing, especially for a brand new company trying to get its footing.
What would you say is a good rate of getting reviews? Like how many a week is
Yeah.
good?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on the industry, because if you are a plumber, electrician, a HVAC guy where you have 4 vans in the field that are all running 4 jobs a day, at that point you could be getting, 4 to 10 reviews per day. Now, I don't see that happening all that often. I would love to say for a service guy, if you're getting 10 reviews per week, you're doing great. Love to see it, For our remodelers, for those who have like a longer sales process, longer jobs, 2 reviews per week is a great target to shoot for. I would say for really any company, 2 reviews per week come hell or high water. If you're a company that does like one big project every couple months, and I would say like 1 a month would be a good target. But 2 reviews per week for most companies is the target I like to set. What other advice do we have for Richard? What big things would you, if you could have started it way back when you started your company, you would have?
I think the one thing for myself would be documenting everything.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, everything that I do for jobs. I started off with receipts and notebooks, and only a few months back, I started with actually putting everything in Google Sheets and documenting, and it's been a game changer. My estimating is so much quicker and more, just flows a lot quicker and efficiently.
Yeah, it's not all in your head, and it's somewhere that it's easily edited, easily accessible. That's great, Philip. Philip, another thing that I feel like you do really well, and if you're willing to talk about it, would you say Profit First is kind of up there in something that you would?
Oh yeah, with Profit First, I mean, this year we're not, just because we got a little bit of rhythm into it last year. This year we're not paying any taxes, which is the first. And then we also had paid off a lot of our debts. My truck's paid off. Anything that's really been lingering has been paid off. So that's been a beauty with Profit First. That's been a game changer too. It took a second to get into it, and I've kind of fell off the tracks a little bit, but it's well worth it for sure.
Love it. Love that. What
When
other
you say
advice?
documenting, are you also talking about tracking in that?
Tracking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a loaded question. Sorry, Philip.
Yep.
I used you as my guinea pig.
Yeah, tracking using CMM. They do a great job of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
What other
yeah,
thing?
that's a game changer too. I mean, right now we're not having leads fall through the cracks. We can look back and be like, okay, where's somebody at? And not a few weeks down the road, and we're like, oh shoot, we had a customer supposed to give an estimate out to, and now we're more on top of it and making sure things are followed up with appropriately.
Huge. Kind of along those lines, does anybody have anything that they're like, this was a game changer for my sales process? I saw a big change in my closing ratio, or does anybody have anything?
I think pricing, knowing your pricing, knowing
Yeah.
what it takes, like doing that equation, sitting down, looking at your numbers, after you, of course, you have to track, you have to document what your business is doing as far as all the margins, and then figure out what your business needs. Because in my industry, people are so they'll call around, get what other companies charge to do this, and they'll base it off of that. But what's good for them may not be good for you. And people like, oh, well, this 15 truck outfit, they charge this, but they don't see that they're doing so much quantity that they can maybe charge a little less than the guy with 3 trucks. Knowing your numbers and not leaving anything on the table, I think is huge. Because I've got a friend that is he's not on here anymore, but the guy that asked the question that does the remodeling, my best friend owns a tile and a remodeling company, and he is constantly chasing money. And he's the guy that sometimes on Thursdays he's having to go get checks to make payroll, and they do well, but they have a lot of expense because he's not tracking his numbers. He doesn't know what's coming in and what's going out, and sometimes the weeks get away from him, the receivables and the payables. not tracking and seeing those numbers. Even on my scale, I try to track those because I don't want to be up down.
No.
I think that's a huge component on a small scale to a large scale. Start now to where you know your numbers and you know what you need to charge to make a profit. Never want to be the cheapest guy in town, but you don't want to be the most expensive. So finding that median,
Yeah.
I think is huge.
Absolutely.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah.
If you don't know your
Love-
numbers, if your pricing isn't making sense, if you're not collecting, if your draw schedules don't make sense, if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, nothing else matters. If you do not know your numbers, if your pricing is not where it needs to be, we really shouldn't talk about anything else, until that is fixed, because nothing else matters. So you are 100% right. That's where a lot of times we start with one of the first questions your coach asks you when you start Redmond Growth is, I need a profit and loss statement, and there's a reason for that. We've got to start there. So that's huge.
Yeah. I think I'll also add to that. First off, that I love what you said as well, but also that in knowing your numbers, too many people in the entrepreneurial world, it's kind of a general mindset I run into a lot, will talk about or think about that really quick with numbers of like coming up with something on the spot. But when you do that, it's kind of guesstimating instead of actually calculating. And if you're thinking about like, I want to make this much a day and this much a week in dollar amounts, that's not as beneficial to you. It's beneficial when you have KPIs for like marking your team and saying, hey, these are our goals and targets as a dollar amount for the week. But your pricing shouldn't be based on that. You shouldn't make your pricing based on I want to have this many dollars in profit. If you're doing it on a consistent margin and you're going by percentages, that's what you can actually see on your P&L and have it reflect. And that's where you're not chasing payroll every week. Because you said he's doing well, but he's chasing payroll. And yeah, it's cash.
Yeah. He's got a leak somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It's him, and he knows this. He's trying to fix it, but he's been doing it for 16 years the same way, and it always works. So it's like, well, it's working. It just barely, but 16 years in, it's causing stress, and that is the byproduct of not knowing your numbers in a business. Because once you get it and you kind of know what's going on, you're able to watch those numbers, and that alone gives you some clarity that, okay, the business is doing good, rather than just looking at, okay, well, he needs to make $1,000 a day. Just based off of that, just price right, and he'll make $1,000 a day. You price right, he'll make $2,000 a day. And knowing what that truck's doing, like the KPI is a game changer moving forward for us. I'm trying to nail that down and figure out exactly how to navigate that. Because that's something with all of the business coaching that I spoke to, that was one common ground that everybody had. Like, this is one of the most important things of keeping this thing rolling, is tracking every number, knowing every number. And you may need to increase your hour to keep up. Like, we'll be able to see where we're bleeding with just this simple chart. Tracking and knowing your prices, not cutting yourself short, but also not ripping people off. That's a very thin line there.
Yeah. Great feedback. Love this question. Any other feedback we got here? If you could do it over from day one, what would you do? What have you learned?
There's something that Deleon said that did I pronounce your name right? Because you kind of laughed when I said that.
It's okay. I'm 35 and my name has probably been pronounced correct 15% of the time throughout my life. No, it's Dalen. It's just spelled stupid.
I don't feel like I was that far off.
No, you were close. You just replaced De Leon. You took the
Made
L and I and swapped it. Yes.
Yeah, De Leon. I like that. No, but when he was talking about how, his friend had been doing things a certain way for a long time, that was working for him until it didn't work anymore. So, like, I don't know what it is I mean, I think I know what it is. I think it's just a lack of, really good guidance and knowledge and training and development. But like I sincerely believe that if you're basing off, especially the way you do pricing, estimates, draw schedules, collections, if you're basing that off of any sort of industry standard, right, then I would really highly encourage you to reconsider things.
Absolutely.
The reason why is because, like, if you look at what's industry standard is that 97% of like construction businesses go out of business in 10 years. Like, that's the industry standard. You know what I mean? And so, and you can look that stat up. And what I mean by saying that is, like, if the industry standard, if those numbers do not actually correspond to what your business needs to produce on each job, or what kind of margins that you really need to make, like Bryce is saying, then it is a structure, or it's a standard that is eventually going to cause a lot of problems, right? Whenever we get clients coming in our door the first time, or early on, we typically ask them, how they do their pricing, how they do their estimating. And a lot of times we hear these percentages, right? And it's all over the board. Hey, we, charge 25% down, or we need, 40% at this point, or hey, I add the cost of this and that, and I tack on 40% or 50% or whatever it is. But it's like, okay, well, do these percentages have any correspondence to what's actually going on in the job and what's actually going on in your business? Right? Like, are we using our profit and loss statement to determine what our margins should be? Right? Or are we just using, what we heard the guy down the street use, or what the last company used to use when we were with them, right? Are we using that same structure? I would really encourage you not to really base that kind of stuff in any sort of industry standards. Beware of industry standards, because industry standards, first of all, I don't think there actually are any industry standards like for construction. I think people have done things a certain way for most of the time, but like, even the way those things are done varies from person to person, it seems. All that to say is we're not wanting to ever base these kinds of things off of what other people are doing, what someone did before us, right? What we've heard other people talk about. We're always wanting to base these things off of our business. And so I just wanted to piggyback. I know you guys weren't really talking about that, but it reminded me of this thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, which is, hey, the way that we price, the way that we estimate, the way that we do things, well, we do it this way. And why do we do it? Well, it's because that's the way we've been doing it. That's the way someone else did it, or whatever. It's not the way we should be doing it. The way we should be doing it is basing it on what your business actually needs, right?
And you can see that in the majority of construction businesses, and even coming to home services. Okay, we've been doing it this way for so long, and you're the business owner, and you're still in a work truck every day.
Mm-hmm.
You are still in a work truck. You are still doing all these things. You may have an office lady, you may have a service manager, but why are you still in a work truck every day? Why can't you leave? Because you haven't priced your business right. You haven't priced yourself out of a work truck. You haven't got the numbers correct. You've been doing it the way the guy you learned from, the company that you cut your teeth at, or in whatever industry you're in. You're doing it the way that they did it. And I was guilty of that to begin with. And then I realized I can't, like you just said, you can't base anything off of any standards, because it's your business. You got to do it the way that works for your business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I just want to encourage everyone. And a lot of times I find that people are open, like to change. Like, it seems that, I mean, that's why you guys are here, right? You want a better way of doing things. And what I found is that people are open to change, but when push comes to shove, there can sometimes be resistance. And that resistance comes from just discomfort. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's hey, I've been doing it this way for a long time, right? And now we're exploring a different way. Now we're exploring cost plus. Now we're exploring, charging and collecting payment ahead of the work, right? Now we're exploring these different new concepts, and there can be resistance towards that. Not because that, anyone's actually not open to it or doesn't, see the value, but because it's a new way of doing things. We don't know how people are going to respond. We don't know, how to maybe present something as well. And that's okay, right? That's what we're here for, to guide you through those things and to work with you and to customize these things for your business with your coach. But just if you notice that little bit of resistance towards the way you've been doing things versus the way that, you really should be doing things, I would really encourage you to embrace that discomfort and move forward anyway. That's something that we talk about with every single person that comes to the doors, right? If you've, okay, like Jordan, Russell, are we paying attention here? Or are you just like consumed with my beautiful mustache? What's the deal? No, I'm just kidding. That just distracted me so hard.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I got to tell you, dude. I absolutely agree with you, man. I'm out here trying to get Dale on's mustache.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Continue on.
You're totally fine. And honestly, Jordan, totally agree. Glad you said something in front of everybody. I really appreciate that. No, so all that to say is try to notice if that discomfort is coming up for you, if that resistance is coming up for you. If that discomfort's coming up, that's always where the growth is, right? I said this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek, right? The cave you fear to enter, the place you're afraid to go, the place you feel resistance, that's the place that's going to be the next growth opportunity for you. So just something to keep in mind. Sometimes we're comfortable in our industry standards, even though it's not serving us, right? It's like we want to live there. We want to stick there for a minute, but we can't keep doing things that way anymore. And when that discomfort comes, instead of letting it control us or create procrastination or whatever objection, we're just going to say, you know what, let's embrace and move forward. I think I heard a question come up. Or a hand.
And
It was me.
Okay, Richard.
Richard.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yes, I agree with you, Robert. That's one of the reasons I came to Redmond in the first place. Was a number of things have changed since we were doing this years ago in Oklahoma, first in sales and marketing, but second, we got to a point where God bless us, the company was growing triple digits, but I got to a point where I couldn't scale to the next level. And as you mentioned, let me say this first. I didn't have the benefit of having lots of family that I could pull into the business to expand it, that way in terms of project management or sales or, other areas that I could naturally just graft into the business through, association by blood. So, but I couldn't find anybody that I could really get to the point, and I wasn't comfortable scaling the business because, like you mentioned, we've been doing it that way for a while, and it's pretty scary with that baby to potentially drop the ball and, abort something and lose the whole business. As you mentioned a minute ago, statistically, yes, there's a lot of turnover in this industry. I can't tell you how many companies that I started with, 20 years ago in Oklahoma that are not in business anymore. Business is hard, and some guys get to the point where they just get tired and they just want to go make tool belt money and they're done. They don't want to run the business. They don't want to have to deal with all the extra elements of company. So, I'm just saying I appreciate you sharing that. Yes, that's one of the reasons I'm here. It's very uncomfortable at this point as a startup, but I know I need help to scale beyond myself, which I couldn't do before. And at that point, I don't think Redmond was in business, in 2015. So I didn't have a lot of choices at that point in terms of outside help.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you can recognize that. I'm glad that you're here. I think the ability to use, family, you mentioned that was a benefit. I think it can like 50-50. That's a benefit. That's a curse. It doesn't always go great even if you do have family. So I don't think the grass is always greener in that situation, man. I think you're doing things right. I'm really, really glad to hear that. Yeah, it's just there unfortunately isn't, a lot of help out there for this kind of thing, right? And that's our mission. That's what we're in business to do. So appreciate you sharing. All right, guys. Well, hey, I think we can go ahead and wrap up for today. Really appreciate everyone being on here. We like to end with a little bit of a bang, a little bit of a boo, a little bit of energy. So what we do is I'll count down from 3, 3, 2, 1. Before I count down, everyone unmute your mic. Unmute your mic now. Unmute your mic. When I hit 1, after I say 1, we're going to all say the word growth on free. I can always count on Damon Hobbs to be here for this. All righty. 3, 2, 1. Grow!
Grow!